Hello everyone and welcome to this very special episode of HorrorHouse. It is our 10th episode. I'm treating this as the first milestone of this podcast and I'm incredibly excited to talk about today's topic with the only other person on the planet who's a bigger fan of this topic than I am. You know her well. She was our first ever guest on HorrorHouse in episode 4. She is the co-host of Odd Shape Panel on the TUFF Channel. It is Kimber Barrett.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I don't know about bigger fan. Maybe I'll say we're tied. We're gonna leave it at tied.
You're America's biggest fan. I'm the UK's biggest fan. Let's say that.
King in the North. That's what I heard.
King in the North. Are we still carrying that on? Is that still a thing? Is King in the North still a thing?
Well, especially since you did so great in your episode.
Well, yeah. If anyone listening to this doesn't know, I was on Fan Friction on the TUFF Channel last Sunday, and I won. So
He was awesome.
Yeah, if you want to go and check that out, definitely do that. There'll be links to the TUFF Channel in the description of this video. But yeah, I really didn't think I was going to pull through that.
I had faith in you, buddy. You know I was leading Team Morgan.
You were.
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for Jack to let us do our horror episode. Maybe I'll get to fight you sometime.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who he'd get on for a third person.
Maybe Brian.
Yeah.
That'd be a good fight.
Yeah. Make it a championship fight. Me, you, and Brian.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Let's do
I
that.
think I'd have to win a fight first before I'm eligible for that. But maybe my next one.
Yeah, I'm leading Team Kimber on this next one.
Nice.
So yes, anyway, if for some bizarre reason people are listening to this and still don't know what today's topic is, even after reading the episode title, we are of course talking about the greatest thing to ever come out of the horror genre, Mr. Vincent Price.
Have you anything to say, Warlock?
Only this. As surely as the village of Arkham has risen up against me, so shall I rise from the dead against the village of Arkham. Each one of you, Ezra Wheaton, Micah Smith, Benjamin West, Priam Willett, Gideon Leach, all of you and your children's children shall have just cause to regret the actions of this night. For from this night onward, you shall bear my curse.
Sorry about my alarm. It's so dramatic that the ambulance is coming.
Oh, that's
But
fine.
yeah, the Vincent Price, incomparable, the Merchant of Menace, a
Complete.
true Renaissance man. How could we not talk about him?
How could we not? And what a fitting episode to focus on such an integral part of the genre's history. With the first milestone of this podcast, like we said. So I want to start off today because when you were on the first time, Kimber, in episode 4, after that I introduced something to the start of every show where I would ask the guest to talk for a bit about what they think their favourite horror movie of all time is. But seeing as this is a Price-specific episode, do you maybe want to start by saying what is your favourite Vincent Price horror film, if that even is such a thing?
Yeah, actually, it's conveniently my favorite horror movie of all time is a Vincent Price movie. Again, fans of Fan Friction will know that I fought for this movie, and it's actually how I ended up meeting you, Morgan.
Yes, it
you
is.
Contacted me about House on Haunted Hill, which is an absolute classic. It's beautiful in black and white and in color. I've seen it both ways.
Oh, I haven't seen it in colour. That could be interesting.
Yes, I recently saw it in color. It's on. I think it's available on YouTube.
Wow.
It's beautiful in color. Completely different vibe. But
Yeah.
How could anyone not love that movie? Again, Vincent Price famously said, it's as fun to scare as it is to be scared. And that movie is exactly what that's all about. Fun, horror, camp, brilliance.
It is so... I did, of course, rewatch that last night. It is so much fun. It really is. You sit through... It's not a long film. It's like 75 minutes long or something like that. But you just sat there with a smile on your face. You don't take the smile off your face because Price is one of those guys, maybe the only actor I've ever really come across that can be so sort of dark and menacing, but you're just laughing because you just realise, yes, this is perfect.
Oh yeah, there's a super, like, there's a certain warmth to him that there is not with any other horror icon. And I have a portrait of him in my arm, as you know, and I got him smiling. Yeah. And that's because, to me, like, every time I see Vincent Price, he makes me smile.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
just something about the charisma that he has and that voice and his, like, over-exaggerated facial expressions. Like, everything about him just brings a smile to my face. I
don't know how everyone can't possibly love him. He just really does. There's no other actor that can make me smile as hugely as Price does when I watch any of his films, even the slightly, poorer ones. It's just whenever he's on screen, it's a special moment, even in some of the bad films.
House on Haunted Hill in particular is my favorite because I feel like you get the one of my favorite things with him, which is his banters that he has with his wives in these movies.
Yes.
And the wife in House on Haunted Hill is particularly like bitchy and sassy with him. And I love their back and forth, like the things that they say to each other throughout the whole movie. They're all like vaguely threatening.
It's threatening, but it's hilarious.
Way. Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
It's brilliant. It's See, House on Haunted Hill is, of course, it's up there with my favourite Price films, definitely. Definitely top 3. But like you say, the wife. What is the actress's name? Carol something.
I wish I had written that down. She's very beautiful, blonde.
Carol Ohmart. Carol Ohmart. I think that's how you pronounce it. Ohmart. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah, that is the actress who plays Vincent Price's wife in House on a Haunted Hill, and it's sort of a weird one because she has her own sort of agenda in the film. Like, they host this party, of course, for like 5 people up on this house on a haunted hill, funnily enough. And but the two of them seem to they come at it from different ways. Like, throughout the film, you realise that Price sort of knows that his wife and one of the fellow partygoers is conspiring against him, and then he just does something by the end that it's just, you're just applauding, because it's just like, yes, I'm so thankful, it's great, you knew exactly what was going on, and it just makes me laugh and smile every time.
Yeah, I definitely, he would be the first one to tell you, his character in that movie, that it's her party and not his, which I like. He repeatedly kind of says that, but I do love that he's like a step ahead of her the whole time, and you can tell in his confidence with the way he's carrying himself that he's definitely got something going on.
Yeah.
But I love that big reveal at the end, and I always love, you'll find in a lot of Vincent Price movies where you'll get that moment in the film where the character who has been wronging him gets their comeuppance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of revenge. There's a lot of revenge with Price's films. He always seems to play someone that's ends up having to get revenge for something, and he always does it in the most brilliantly brutal and, you know, charming way. And those two words shouldn't go together, but they just do.
Well, there's no one else who really ever did that like he did. And he had a massively diverse career. Vincent Price actually has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for film and one for TV. So he had a huge career. Stage acting is where he started as well. But no one ever really did what he did with horror. No one had the amount of charm that he did. He would do terrible things, but you would still love his character, you know?
Yeah, and you know, that's what makes him so, you know, phenomenally iconic. Even today, you know, people still talk about him today. People know about him less today, sadly, than they once did. But, you know, people should realise that there's only one Vincent Price. There's only a single actor who could do it like Vincent Price. No one in, not just horror, but in film really, has ever brought the presence that Price did to his films in both a threatening and an incredibly charming way.
Absolutely, and I mean, he was on The Muppets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that just shows that he can be Vincent Price, and it was like a spooky themed episode, but again, like, his charm outweighs that. He's not gonna like terrify children, you know. He's just gonna have like a good spooky time with them.
I think,
and not everybody could be, because he is very terrifying. Like, he's horrible in Witchfinder General.
Oh yeah, we'll get on to Witchfinder General. My God, he's the character. He is like, you wouldn't start. I don't think I'd start off introducing someone to Price by showing them Witchfinder General.
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, that's an interesting thought actually. Like, Price is probably, if you're showing, like, if you want to get children into horror, like, not like children, but like maybe, I don't know, 9 and up. If you want to get them into horror, show them one of the, you know, sort of fun, spooky Price films. Maybe show them House on Haunted Hill, because it has its sort of scary moments, but in the end, you just end up smiling. And I think...
Oh, true, yeah.
You know, I think that is a great sort of way to introduce people to the best genre in film.
And even as kids, you can... I mean, I've been exposed to Vincent Price my whole life, but I have really fun parents. But you could even... Like, he did a Scooby-Doo episode, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Yeah. He was Egghead on Batman. Like I said, he did a episode, so the exposure is there, even if you're a kid. And you were saying earlier that it's like not as many people are exposed to him, but I was talking to you the other day because I'm going to be 30 next month. You're 19.
I am.
To me, it's awesome. It's awesome that you're 19 and you're so into Vincent Price. Obviously, like, his work is timeless to be appealing to, you know, people tell me that I'm young to know who he is, you know? So it's brilliant that you know who he is and you care about him so much and that you're spreading the word about his work.
Well, yeah, of course I am, but this might interest you. I had seen, like 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, and, like, years and years and years ago when I was a legitimate child. And you just reminded me of Egghead on the 60s Adam West Batman show.
Can't forget that.
And I watched that years ago as well. But I didn't realise, oh, this Vincent Price guy, this is who this is. Let's look into him. Now this will surprise you, I only discovered Vincent Price and his wonderful horror career last year.
Oh, wow.
Last year. It was seriously as late as that. And look at me now. But yeah, I mean, I don't come from a particularly film-loving family. You know, they like watching stuff every so often. Very rarely we like sort of the same things. They really aren't into horror my parents at all. So I had to kind of introduce myself to a lot of horror, and I only got round to Price last year, and
wow.
it sort of went from sort of a good love of horror to this outrageous, oh my god, horror's the greatest thing ever, when I found Price and his beautiful face.
I don't blame you, and that's the way he deserves to be responded to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's how I felt the first time I saw him. And again, his career is so huge. I'm like looking at my notes here.
Yeah.
And he did. Where is this? The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah.
Another one kids can get exposed to that's really great. There was a Simpsons episode. I don't know if you remember. It's kind of obscure. I just remember because I love Vincent Price. But they're like selling like some sort of like kooky Vincent Price egg kit, and they're trying to call it because the feet are missing.
Great.
And I always remember his message, like, if you're calling about the feet, you know? So he's just like, he's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And Hollywood Squares, of course. He was on Hollywood Squares famously for years.
Right. See, we don't get that here. But,
yeah, I was looking up another one that I wasn't familiar with. On BBC Radio, apparently in the 70s, he used to do a horror mystery series called The Price of Fear.
Oh, I've heard that name. I've heard.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I can't say I've listened to any of that, but I've definitely heard that name. And, you know, like you said, you know, I am 19 years old, for all those listeners that don't know how old I am. And yeah, but I you know, didn't grow up with Price like you seem to.
Yeah.
So it's really just been a bombardment of Price this past sort of 12, 15 months. And yeah, my love has grown and grown.
That's great. You're still young, though. By the time you're my age, you're going to be like, I've loved Vincent Price for 10 years.
True.
You know?
True. Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm getting very, very, I've just got a stupid smile on my face and I can't quite put words together at the minute. I
know for the listeners, we kept having conversations and we had to stop ourselves because we would get sucked into like 30-minute back and forth just writing about Vincent Price, and we're like, man, we got to save it for the show. We got to save it for the show.
We did. These past couple of days, we're recording this on a Thursday. These past couple of days, it's just been like, oh my god, this, Price, you know, and it's just right. Just like stop for a minute, so we actually have something to talk about in the episode. And fair play to us for stopping, to be fair. I think.
Know, right? But luckily, like, he's had such a rich career that there's plenty of talk to
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about.
yeah.
He's done over 100 movies.
Yeah.
That's absurd. That's so many movies. He had a career that lasted over 60, like, almost 60 years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is. It was just a phenomenal career. And like you say, he did, you know, it was quite a diverse career. You know, he did a load of other stuff sort of outside of his films as well, like the cooking.
Absolutely.
And all that sort of stuff, that he just sort of stopped doing films for a while and went off and became a celebrity chef.
Yeah.
It's insane, but it's great.
Several cookbooks, yeah, I think several cookbooks, one of which I just saw they recently, like, reprinted and re-released, and I have to get my hands on that, because that's like Vincent Price cooking you dinner.
I know. What I would give to have that happen now.
Yeah, me and Tom were talking about, you know, like a lot of people will be like, oh, if you could have dinner with any person, dead or alive, who would you take?
Oh, definitely.
And me and Tom were saying, like, you almost rob yourself if you don't pick somebody like Vincent Price, because, like, first of all, he'd probably cook you a delicious meal. I hear nothing but him being super charming, witty, hysterical, and I see that, like, I can't imagine, like, a presence that would be more, like, again, like, warm to be around.
No, I know. I get the feeling you could just sit there for hours and hours and listen to him talk about anything, because he'd come out with such great stories about things. I would imagine. And even, not aside from the fact that he's got an incredible voice, his personality would just hold you and, grip you for hours if you were sat having a meal with him.
Oh, of course. And not to mention, like, he had a degree in art history as well, and
yes.
he was, like, a lifelong art collector.
Yeah.
There's actually a Vincent Price museum in
Where,
California that
is it in
to.
Where in California is it?
I would have to look up exactly, but I do know that that it's definitely in California.
Right.
I've seen, like, I follow, like, a lot of the Vincent Price pages on, like, Facebook and stuff, and I'll see like, pictures pop up from his museum, and I just want to go there.
Speaking of, like, Vincent Price pages on Facebook, sorry to slightly interrupt. No. You see, well, I see a load of stuff that his daughter, Victoria, she tours seemingly endlessly around the US, just promoting the legacy of her father, and I just think that, it's incredible. You see loads and loads of people come out just to hear Victoria tell stories about Vincent. As a dad, as a person.
And what beautiful stories she has too. I've heard her talk. Me and Tom were watching video of her yesterday, and what was I going to say about him? It's so hard because there's so many thoughts. I got a little off track there, but
worries.
He was truly, like, he did all kinds of stuff. He wrote books about and lectured about art as well.
Right. I mean, he seemed to love everything he did, and you don't seem to get that a lot these days.
No.
Every single film he did, every single sort of other thing he did outside of films, like you say, the art and the cooking and whatever, he just seemed to give off so much love for what he did. And to be honest, that love shows in in each and every one of his films that I've seen, at least. You can really tell he's having an absolute ball with everything he's in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that another one of my favorite performances, even though it's something small, was his last prominent performance, which was in Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
He was very sick at that point. He had emphysema and also Parkinson's, so they had to keep it limited with what they could do with him. But that's my favorite Tim Burton movie. I think it has the most beautiful score. I think that it's the most Tim Burton-y original idea. Yeah. And I think that Vincent Price in there could not have been any more perfect as the inventor.
No,
it makes me cry every time I see him.
I know. It's just sort of
his last days.
It's sort of a great way to sort of almost see him off. Being that his last prominent role, it's just like, you watch Edward Scissorhands and you're just like, oh, Vincent, this is your last thing, and what a great last little role it was, because it just shows him for that last time as someone quite, wacky.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring up Victoria, because, again, back to the portrait on my arm, people all the time are like, is that your grandpa? And I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, my God, I wish it was. Yeah. Oh. You were saying the other day as well that some people think it's Walt Disney.
Yes, he does get mistaken for Walt Disney on my arm a lot. I do contribute the fact that I lived in Florida, so close to Disney World, as a factor in that, and especially when I lived in Orlando, it was bonkers. Everybody always thought it was Walt Disney, but I am quick to correct them, and anybody who comes up and notices that it's Vincent Price, it's like instant friendship. Yeah,
I know. I sadly don't meet very many Vincent Price fans, apart from, well, certainly not as huge as you are anyway. It's mainly people that have heard of him, but haven't really seen him in anything, really. But anyway, this is let's get on to a bit more stuff because I want to keep this to a reasonable length, and I feel we could go on for 7 hours. So, why don't we talk about Witchfinder General a bit? Because, like you said before, it is a performance. He's playing such a horrible character that it's just so unusual to see him in such a role. But it's one of his best performances, as far as I'm concerned. Because, not only because it's so different, but you really feel his intimidating factor in it, and it has the best quote to do an impression of him. If you would do an impression, I'm not going to start doing that now. I'm not going to embarrass myself and taint the masterful legacy of Mr. Price. But during the the witch dunking scene on the bridge, and he just says the mark of Satan is upon them.
They swim. The mark of Satan is upon them.
And I think that is a fantastic quote. That brings a smile to my face when I watch that. It's probably the only time that entire film where I'm smiling. But I love that quote so much, and the way he delivers that is just, in that perfect voice, it is just incredible.
I think it's easy for people to forget that Vincent Price was a huge dude. He was 6'4".
Yeah.
And if you look at him, he is an intimidating guy. He's got really strong features, and intense eyes and eyebrows. So it's not surprising that he can turn down the charm, and you're like, oh wait, this guy's really scary.
Yeah.
That moment.
Yeah, and that goes back to he can play, how he plays charming and threatening so well together, because he can just bring it out in both aspects, like you said.
For sure. I wanted to bring up really quick, because it is super important in his career, and I cannot forgive myself if we don't talk about the Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, of course. So much Poe, and I love them all.
Yes.
They're so much fun.
The Pit and the Pendulum is easily my favorite, but I'm also a big fan of The Tomb of Lygia and The Mask of Red Death, and pretty much all the ones that he did. I also used to have a set of audiobooks that my brother got for me, which was really cool because they were narrated. They were Edgar Allan Poe stories, and they were narrated by Vincent Price and Basil Rathbone.
Oh, wow.
Who was, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Basil Rathbone, but he was one of the original Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see, to not only have Price, which of course he's very associated with Edgar Allan Poe. That's almost his main thing.
Yeah.
But to also have Basil Rathbone on there, another classic actor.
Yeah, I think one of the favorite sort of videos of Price I've seen through the Facebook pages and stuff is of him sort of doing this performance while reading Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
Yes.
It's great. It is just, like you say, I just have a huge smile on my face watching that. His voice is perfect for voice work. Mm-hmm. And it's, weird that he only really had one big voice role in film in Great Mouse Detective. That's one of the best villains in animated Disney, as far as I'm concerned.
For sure. He did do a lot of, again, we have to mention Thriller.
Yeah.
He was also on Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare album. He did a voiceover, which is my favorite voiceover he ever did on an album, for The Black Widow. And he does like a whole intro where he's talking about different types of spiders and like their last names and stuff, and just the delivery he has, no one else could do it like he did it. But it is cool to see him. He at least got to do some really prominent, like that voiceover on Thriller is how I identify Vincent Price to people who do not know who Vincent Price is.
Yeah, and
everyone knows that.
This is the same thing with me as like, a younger, when I was a child, maybe like 10 or something, and I'd hear Thriller, I'd know that voice was an incredible voice, but I had no idea who it was. I had no idea that I would love this man as much as I do today, back then. But yeah, like you say, oh yeah, I'm a huge Vincent Price fan to someone on the street. They ask, who's Vincent Price? I've never heard of Vincent Price. You say, the guy who did the voice in Thriller? You say, oh my god, that guy's voice is incredible. That's the first thing you say. You just go and become familiar with Price in all of his films, all of his audio work, all of his everything, because he's the best.
That track would not be the same thing that it is without that Vincent Price part of the song.
Not at all.
It wouldn't. And it's almost like a rap. It's like the Vincent Price rap,
Oh, now I'm thinking about him rapping.
One thing that I also find unusual about Vincent Price is that I would expect him to be European for some reason, but he's Midwestern. Like, he's from the Midwest U.S. I find that so unexpected.
Yeah, I will say this. When I first discovered him, I did think he was English.
Yeah, I
did think he was, until I sort of looked. He's from St. Louis, isn't he? St. Louis.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never thought of. I thought it was a case of Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Vincent Price, three massive guys in British horror. No, it's just Lee and Cushing from British horror. Price was all.
At least you have Price.
Price just ran America.
He did have a very European flair to him, and I know that his family was Welsh.
Right.
So he did have it, I guess, in his blood.
Yeah, but I want to move on to talking about what I consider my favourite Vincent Price film, if that is okay, if we are okay to move this conversation on.
Oh, go for it.
I actually finished watching this maybe about an hour ago, because I just had to watch it to get in the mood before this recording. That's The Haunted Palace.
Nice.
From 1963, I believe, and it is just the best. I think it is, for me, it's Price's best performance, because it is both the charm and the intimidating, really threatening part just in the same film, and sometimes in the same scenes, because if you don't know the film is basically Price and his wife. I think it's based on both Poe and Lovecraft works. It's definitely Lovecraft, because the village they go to is Arkham, which is famous with Lovecraft and not Batman. Both. But Price and his wife go to the village of Arkham, where over 100 years ago, one of Price's ancestors was sort of kidnapping the minds of the women of the town and having them mate with old gods like Cthulhu and things like that, in order to bring these gods back to prominence on Earth. And the villagers were like, oh my god, this guy's Satan. And they burn him at the start of the film. They burn. It's Price, but it's Price playing Price's ancestor. They burn him at the start of the film, and that's like it's a great opening. It's really sort of atmospheric, really, but really atmospheric and really fun to watch again. But yeah, after that, Price and his wife come to the town over 100 years later, and all the villagers are like, he's back. You know, I don't want him to be back. This is bad. They sort of start becoming conflicted with each other over whether they think they should do something about it, because some of them, you know, probably rightly so, aren't convinced that the guy who's come back is the spirit of Joseph Kerwin, is the ancestor's name. But once Price and his wife end up staying in the so-called haunted palace, his mind becomes taken over by a portrait of his ancestor, and those scenes to watch are great. The great performance from Price in those scenes where he's sort of conflicting with his own mind over whether he is, you know, Joseph Kerwin or Charles Dexter Ward is his actual character's name. It's just great, and I just love it so much. I love Haunted Palace.
The 60s were definitely my favorite time period for Vincent Price movies. Just so many of them, and they do not make horror like they used to.
They don't.
Just not like, it's not so focused around like these dramatic performances like it used to be.
Yeah.
It's all about like the set pieces and the jump scares and stuff. Like they need to get back to getting these guys who can really act into horror movies. That's what's going to scare us.
Yeah, but saying that, I would love to see horror go back to the way it was, like you say, with, you know, and to have, you know, big stars of the genre like you had back in the 60s. And but yeah, like you say, now the genre is at a point where it's way more focused on sort of trying to create at least a sense of tension, or like you said, the set pieces. It's not really about the actors, other than maybe in the Conjuring films by this point, because I think Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, you know, if they carry on with this franchise, they may become the best stars we have in the genre, at least these days.
But could you imagine if they took like a Benedict Cumberbatch, for instance, like somebody with serious like gravitas, and then turned him into like a Vincent Price? He could do it if he wanted to. It
could work. This is an interesting piece of trivia, if no one knows, that is literally just popped into my head. I swear I read this like last week, because of Doctor Strange coming out so soon with Cumberbatch. The original design in the comics of Doctor Strange was based on Vincent Price.
I was just talking to Tom yesterday about how if Vincent Price was like, if they did Doctor Strange in Vincent Price's heyday, Doctor Strange is Vincent Price.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange is like legitimately is supposed to look like Vincent Price, and I think that's, you know, the best thing ever, because you've just brought up Cumberbatch as being, you know, if they brought him into the genre and they, you know, went back to the way the genre was 50 years ago, that makes me believe that Cumberbatch could do it.
I do. I think he's the only one who really has like the looks and the charm and the charisma to like pull off something like Vincent Price was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's made my stupid grin get even bigger now. What are your thoughts on Theatre of Blood?
I like Theatre of Blood. Admittedly, I have not watched it in a while. I do have it in my collection. I know I sent you a picture of my my Vincent Price DVDs and VHS. I'm definitely finding myself more rewatching the Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah.
stuff the most.
Yeah. It's
The Theater of Blood is great. It's definitely like another classic from him. I would watch him in anything.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a different one because it's set in the present day. And that's kind of weird to watch Price in just like normal clothing, and and stuff like that. But yeah, it's Price plays a huge Shakespeare fan who never got. I swear it's something like he never got like his big break on the stage, and he always thought he was this phenomenal stage actor, and he just wasn't really. But he goes about murdering all of the critics that that gave him bad reviews on the stage in various Shakespearean ways, and that concept is very, very cool.
It's a modern. It feels like a very modern concept.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of stuff they should be trying to remake instead of crap that we already.
Yeah, you should be doing that.
You know.
Yeah, you do that now. You have people actors murdering their own critics. It's especially today with literally everyone being a critic in some degree.
And it's funny too because, like I mentioned earlier, Vincent Price had his start as a stage actor, and as a prominent stage actor, he just started out with a big role. I don't remember what that play was. What was it? Yeah, he was just. It was with like famous stage actors, and he was already touring like the U.S. in huge theater productions. So it's interesting to see them mirror that and kind of like have parts of his real life. Kind of pouring into fiction, but putting a twist on it because, of course, like he got good reviews, not bad ones.
Oh, of course he did, and it's also got my absolute favourite Vincent Price costume in it, which is where he puts on that ridiculous afro wig and the sunglasses and pretends to be a flamboyant hairdresser and ends up murdering someone, and it's incredible. Everyone go and watch Theatre of Blood, if only to see Price dressed that ridiculously. It's incredible.
In fact, just Google Vincent Price costumes and have fun because he's got so many different
Google Vincent Price facial hair. He's had so many incredible styles. I mean, of course, he's most well known for the standard, nice, thin, groomed mustache. But he's had some wacky beards in some of his films.
Some big sideburns, side chops.
Yeah, I always want to trim my beard to some sort of Price style, but it never ends up working. So
you'll get there.
I'll get there one day. Yeah.
Did you look at this list and see other stuff?
Yeah.
That I wanted to bring up. Tim Burton. He did a short film. It was, I believe, his first short film called Vincent. It's about 6 minutes long, and Vincent Price actually did the voiceover for that. And the story of that is that it's about a little boy who leads a super normal life, but he wants to be like Vincent Price. And,
like everyone should.
Yeah,
it
really
sounds like me.
Good. It's super short. I believe you can just find it on YouTube. If you guys haven't seen that, please check it out. Not only is it a great demonstration of Tim Burton at the height of his powers doing really creative and interesting animation, but also to hear Vincent Price read this poem that Burton obviously wrote fully out of love. It's beautiful. Another thing, I just found out today, amongst my research here and fact-checking, that there was an unfinished shelved Tim Burton project that he was working with Vincent Price in 1991 called Conversations with Vincent, where he actually taped a bunch of recorded conversations that he interviewed Vincent Price, and that's never come out.
Oh, wow.
And of course, like that's, I believe he died in 93, so
I think
that
it was
towards the end of his life.
Yeah.
But man, would I like to hear that.
Oh, yeah. I was not aware of that. That was, that needs to be on some sort of special Blu-ray somewhere. Surely.
I'd buy it.
Wow.
Another thing that he did that I wanted to mention really quick is that he did some really innovative stuff where they were doing kind of like 4D situations in horror back in the day with the theaters having like interactive stuff. And,
oh yeah, like the Tingler.
The Tingler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they would kind of basically like show the Tingler, which is the movie, and at certain points, kind of like when you go to Disney World or whatever,
yeah,
little things would poke you.
Yeah.
So that you get the sensation
I think that's the best thing.
The
Tingler's not a particularly excellent Vincent Price film, but it's still fun, and the fact that you could go and watch it in the cinema back then, and there would just be something in your seat just like poking you whenever the Tingler came on screen is just great. You can imagine the screams coming from the back of the screening, and then, you know, before it came to you, you'd turn around and go, "What the hell is? Oh my god!" And then you shoot at you
in the
screaming.
Time period, you know,
it's
it
hilarious.
doesn't take that much to spook people. That's almost like an accelerated version of a jump scare.
Yeah.
But again, like really innovative for the times.
Oh, definitely.
I almost feel like that's the predecessor to like these chairs that they're giving you now in the theaters that they shake you around and stuff.
Yeah.
That feels very like of that, you know?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest, if I would particularly like that. You know, like the whole. I like the idea of it being done to other people, but yeah, being sat in a nice cinema now, I'm watching something I'm enjoying, and then a Tingler comes on screen and I get a poke up the side. I'm not going to be comfortable for the rest of the screening. But yeah, I don't know. 4D kind of doesn't do it for me. 3D doesn't do it for me. I'm not a fan of that sort of stuff either. But anyway, Vincent Price, not 3D.
Though, that they're like almost gone full circle and like going back to their roots and trying stuff like with better technology that they tried like 50 years ago or whatever, 40 years ago.
Yeah. It's weird. The film industry is weird. Did you have any more films you wanted to mention?
I just wanted to mention that Vincent Price was in the 10 Commandments, just so everyone doesn't forget that.
Oh my god, yes, I actually did forget that. He was. Oh
I always forget that one too.
God, yes.
That's a huge deal. Last Man on Earth.
Yeah.
Which obviously has gone on to inspire other movies. And I don't know. Is there anything that you had written down that you wanted to make sure we touched on?
I have one personal favourite, slightly ridiculous movie written down. That's House of the Long Shadows. Are you familiar with House of the Long Shadows?
I am not, actually.
It brings Price, Christopher Lee, and Peter Cushing together.
I am familiar with that they did do a movie.
It was like in the early 80s. I think it came out in like 83. But I have that behind me now. It's on my DVD pile. It's not what you'd call good, but it's brilliant to see these three play off each other in this.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to check that out.
In this mashup of all sort of things that they did, it has got a lot of similar elements to, the classic Poe things of Price and the classic Hammer things of Lee and Cushing. It is very, very fun to watch, and it has a particularly excellent twist at the end that I thought was excellent anyway. I can see why people would think it's absolutely appalling twist, but it just seemed to really work with the sort of bizarre nature of this film. It is definitely worth checking out. It's not, aside from the big three, the performances are pretty poor. But I think it's set in Wales. It's just I don't actually think Price comes into it until quite a way through. But I do remember his entrance, and he just sort of comes into the light in a almost an Indiana Jones way, or an Orson Welles in The Third Man. He just sort of comes into the light, and then you just go, "Oh, it's Price, he's here." I love it. But yeah, that's definitely worth checking out.
He worked with Orson Welles, I believe, so maybe that had some sort of inspiration.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's possible.
Another thing, I do believe that he did. Do you know Abbott and Costello?
Yes.
Because I do believe that he did make an appearance as the Invisible Man in one of the Abbott and Costello ones.
Did he now? I wasn't aware of that.
An appearance, Tom says, with quotes hanging over. Yeah, I would have to fact check that because that's off the top of my head, but I do believe that he was in one of them.
Okay.
And also, we forgot to mention House of Wax.
Oh, of course, House of Wax, the one that started Vincent Price's horror career almost, pretty much. Well, he did, really. House of Wax is great. I love it. It's
for everyone who has only seen the Paris Hilton House of Wax, please do yourself a justice and go watch the Vincent Price one. It's so much better. Again, like perfect classic horror. He's dipping people in wax to get really realistic wax sculptures. You can't get better than that.
It's like all of these films, they just have.
The Fly too.
Oh, of course, The Fly. My God, we're forgetting loads. The Fly, of course. Like that one maybe has a slightly, better remake. But then at least House of Wax does anyway. But I was the concepts of a lot of these Price films are just, they are what people today, I don't think they'd consider it horror, because what horror is today, it is sort of all the same sort of tension building scare stuff. But horror, as far as I'm concerned, is people in horrific situations. And I'm sorry, but being dipped in wax is a horrific situation.
It is. I use wax stamps to seal my letters, and I've burnt myself quite a few times with that. I can't imagine being dipped in it. That's like a personal nightmare.
Wow. Yeah, it's just... House of Wax, Price's character, again, is just this sort of guy doing these horrible things, but you still kind of love him. It just works. That is who he is. That is who he will forever be remembered as.
We also forgot Dr. Phibes, and I'm going to stop myself after that.
Oh, we did forget Dr. Phibes.
Because it's endless. He's done so many movies, but Dr. Phibes is definitely worth mentioning.
Well, oh my God, I swear we've forgotten something else as well now. Oh, racking my brain. If we're forgetting stuff like Dr. Phibes, we don't deserve to be doing an episode on Vincent Price. Maybe our credibility as huge Price fans has now gone down. Oh my God. Hopefully I'm not forgetting any other big things. We've mentioned Mask of the Red Death, right?
Oh, of course, yes.
That's great.
That's all in Edgar. He also did all of the House of Usher, which is a personal
House of the Usher, House of Usher, of course, that's another. And I've just realised, and I've only just realised because I'm facing away from it at this, it's directly behind me at this point. I have a massive poster of The Raven with Price, Boris Karloff, and Peter Lorre right behind me. And I'm not going to turn around because then I would be facing away from the microphone. But I know it's there. It's huge and it's
I know you have the House on Haunted Hill one.
I do have the House on Haunted Hill one. That's right next to it. It's like the wall of Price.
You gotta. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not forgetting anything else because I want to be able to sleep at night.
No, I don't think we are.
I know he he had done some really hilarious and awesome commercials, too, if anybody has any interest in that. I know you can look those up, but Vincent Price did a lot of, like, spooky-themed commercials for, like, regular product, and they're pretty funny and awesome.
Makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we wouldn't have got those here, I don't think. But,
you could probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I would think I'd be able to. I will definitely look for some weird Price commercials, anyway. So, yeah, maybe that is about... Well, like I say, we could go on for 17 hours talking about Vincent Price, I'm sure. But let's keep this to around an hour, which it is going to be. Because that's the length of these episodes. So yeah, I think that might have to do us for this very special milestone episode of Horror House. This has probably been my favourite episode to talk about. Because...
Tom's wounded.
I'm sorry, Tom, your episode... No, I will say this. I will say Tom's episode has taught me the most stuff. Tom, you taught me the most stuff in your episode.
He likes it.
Yeah, but this, how can I not love this one the most? It's Price. I've had a stupid grin on my face all throughout this episode. The same stupid grin I have on my face every time I put on any Price films. Is there anything you wanted to mention now, coming to an end, about the great man?
I guess just final thoughts. If you guys have not watched a lot of the movies that we're talking about in this episode, and some of them sound interesting to you, please check them out.
Please check them out.
Coming up on Halloween, it's the perfect time to check out movies like these. If you have kids or younger friends, please expose them to Vincent Price. We want to make sure that his legacy lasts a long, long time. He deserves it.
Definitely.
What an interesting person and a life well lived. And I don't know if we'll ever see another one like him, but I'm really glad that we got him, you know?
Yeah. If nothing else, there'll always be Price. So, yeah, let's do a couple of plugs for some stuff now. Kimber, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. Me and Tom here, we host a show every 2 weeks called Odd Shape Panel, and we have moved to YouTube, so that is live on YouTube. We have a side channel called Odd Shape Panel B-Sides. That's where you can catch the live episodes. But after we edit them, we put them up on our channel TUFF, which is where you can also catch fan fiction. And definitely make sure you check out Tea Time Battle for Blood, where Morgan destroyed.
I didn't destroy, it went down to the last question. Spoilers.
He was awesome. He destroyed King in the North.
King in the North!
And also, I have a fight coming up. It's not this weekend. I believe it's next weekend after that. I will be fighting Amy Awesome and Trisha Hirschberger.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and I think that Trisha's going to be great to have on the show. Yeah. Another celebrity guest that Jack has finagled on.
I don't know how Jack keeps getting these.
He's a wizard.
He must be.
But definitely check me out during that fight so you can watch me lose in a lightning round again as
Faith Kimber. Faith. Hashtag Team Kimber, everyone who's listening to this.
I'm always Team Kimber.
But yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, well...
Thanks for having me on so much. You know I love Vincent Price, and it's really nice to talk.
You had to be on this episode.
Not only someone who is excited about Vincent Price as I am, but again, like, with an 11-year age difference, it's super awesome and really important and cool that there's people your age still getting into Vincent Price now. Yeah. So, thank you so much for, like, keeping classic horror alive.
Oh, always. I will forever keep classic horror alive, and anyone I can introduce to it. You know, I introduce to it to everyone, and no one really likes it as of yet, but I'll keep going. I'll keep trying.
Don't like Vincent Price,
There's something wrong.
You don't have any soul. Yeah, no soul.
There's no soul. No soul if you don't like Price. That is a fact that we have determined here on episode 10 of Horror House. If you did like this episode, be sure to give it a like. Comment some of your Vincent Price favourites, or comment some of your films that we have maybe intrigued you by down below. You can subscribe to this channel for all the new stuff that's coming here, including a big month of horror reviews in the Purple Dawn Movies series, because it is of course October, and I'm sure a couple of Price films will be involved in that at least. But yeah, you can follow this podcast on Twitter. That is at HorrorHousePod. Hashtag HorrorHousePod the same, with any questions, any suggestions, anything like that. You can follow me on Twitter at the Purple Don. I know you can follow Kimber on Twitter at SJ+Junkie. And yeah, I think that is about it. Kimber, this has been a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for coming on. You were the only guest I would have dreamed of having on this show, this particular episode. Yeah, you were the first guest, and I hope to have you back again and again and again and again as far as these go on.
Yeah, anytime, let me know.
Well, anyway, that, I think, does it for episode 10 of Horror House. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until episode 11, goodbye, guys.